हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, वेलकम बैक टू लक्ष्य एजुकेशन ऑनलाइन। मेरा नाम है क्षितिज शर्मा। साइंस लेसन नंबर 6 इन एपिसोड नंबर 2 वी स्टडीड अबाउट द न्यूट्रिशन process and human digestive system in detail. Now in this episode we are going to study about the other life process, it is respiration. We will also study human respiratory system and respiration in some other living beings. So let's start science lesson number 6, life processes, episode number 3. Respiration. What is respiration? If students are asked what respiration is, then most of the students would say taking oxygen into our body and releasing carbon dioxide is called respiration. But exactly this is not respiration. Respiration is a broad process. Intake of oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide is called just breathing. But respiration is a longer process. Now exactly what respiration is. In the body of a living being, the cells need energy to perform different activities. Now these activities are done by the oxidation of food. For this process, oxygen intake is necessary. And this food is oxidized at the cellular level. From that, energy is released and then byproduct carbon dioxide is produced. This carbon dioxide is released out of the body. And this whole process of intake of oxygen, utilizing this oxygen to convert food into energy and then releasing of carbon dioxide, this whole process is called respiration. During the process of respiration, the energy is released at cellular level. That's why it is also called cellular respiration process. Now we will understand the types of respiration. There are mainly two types of respiration. One is aerobic respiration and second is anaerobic respiration. Now what is these types are? Number one, aerobic respiration. The respiration during which the energy release occurs or the respiration occurs in the presence of oxygen is called aerobic respiration. It means in this process oxygen is required, it is necessary. That is aerobic respiration. Second is anaerobic respiration. The respiration during which the energy is released in the absence of oxygen, it is called anaerobic respiration. It means during this respiration, oxygen is not involved or it is not necessary. Aerobic respiration releases more amount of energy, whereas anaerobic respiration releases less amount of energy. Aerobic respiration occurs in higher level of living beings like human beings or higher level plants and other animals, whereas anaerobic respiration occurs in microorganisms like fungus. Now let us understand the process how aerobic and anaerobic respiration occurs. We will understand its chemical reaction and the whole chemical process. Let us see. Now let us first of all understand about aerobic respiration. As we discussed that aerobic respiration occurs in higher level plants and animals. We can say that in human beings aerobic respiration occurs. This is the reaction how it occurs. See here, as we know that respiration is the process in which the food is digested or oxidized. Here our food is in the form of glucose. At cellular level our food is converted into glucose. Now glucose is a molecule of 6 carbon atoms. Its molecular formula is C6H12O6. The process of aerobic respiration occurs in two steps. In the first step, glucose, the molecule of 6 carbon atoms, it is converted into pyruvate. Pyruvate is a molecule of 3 carbon atoms. This process of converting glucose into pyruvate, this process is called glycolysis and it occurs in cytoplasm. During this process, oxygen is not required. So here oxygen will not be consumed, it will not be used in the first step. Now the second step is conversion of pyruvate into energy. So pyruvate is converted into energy in the presence of oxidation and this process occurs in mitochondria. We know that mitochondria is called the powerhouse of the cell. It is an organelle of the cell. And during this process, energy is released in the form of ATP. Its full form is adenosine triphosphate. It is unit of energy in the cell. During the process of aerobic respiration, more amount of ATP or energy is released, and as byproduct carbon dioxide and water molecules are released. So once again, the process of aerobic respiration, first step is the conversion of glucose to pyruvate during the process of glycolysis, and this occurs in cytoplasm. Then the second step is pyruvate is converted into 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. This process occurs in the presence of oxygen, and it occurs in the mitochondria. So as oxygen is used in this process, that's why it is called aerobic respiration. So this is the whole equation in the process of aerobic respiration. You must remember this equation and this process. Now the second process is anaerobic respiration. As we know that during anaerobic respiration, oxygen is not required. Let us see anaerobic respiration. Here are two equations about anaerobic respiration. We will understand both one by one. These both are different processes of anaerobic respiration, and they occur in different living beings. Let us see first, which occurs in yeast or microorganisms. The first step of anaerobic respiration is also same as the process in aerobic respiration. It is the conversion of glucose into pyruvate by the process of glycolysis, which occurs in cytoplasm. So the first step is same for aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Now the second step is different. In the second step, pyruvate is converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide, and it releases energy. In this process, it releases two molecules of ATP, means less amount of energy is released, and this process occurs in yeast in absence of oxygen. As it occurs in the absence of oxygen, it is called anaerobic respiration. So this is the process of anaerobic respiration which occurs in yeast, or we can say microorganism. You must remember this equation for yeast. Here ethanol is the byproduct. Ethanol is a kind of alcohol. Carbon dioxide is also released, and small amount of energy is released. Now anaerobic respiration in human muscles or animal muscles. The first step is again same, conversion of glucose into pyruvate. The process is called glycolysis. It occurs in cytoplasm. Second step is pyruvate is converted into lactic acid, and it releases small amount of energy, again 2 ATP. This also occurs in absence of oxygen, and this process occurs in the muscles of animals. You must remember this occurs in the muscles of animals, means in muscles of human beings also. During the process, while we are doing excessive work, our muscles are doing excessive work and they need more oxygen, but oxygen supply is less to the muscle cells. During that process, lactic acid is produced. So this is anaerobic respiration which occurs in muscles of animals. You must remember both of the equations for anaerobic respiration. This whole process is called anaerobic respiration as it occurs in the absence of oxygen. That's why it is called anaerobic respiration. Now after understanding the aerobic and anaerobic respiration, we will understand about the respiration process in plants. Do plants perform the process of respiration? Yes, they do. Do they require oxygen? Yes, they do. During the process of photosynthesis, we know that during daytime, in the presence of sunlight, plants intake carbon dioxide and release oxygen. This is not respiration, remember that. This is process of photosynthesis. Then how do the plants do respiration? Most of the plants do the respiration process during night time, because during night they do not perform photosynthesis. So they do not take carbon dioxide, but they take oxygen. During night time, during this process, through the stomata of leaves and on the stem, they intake oxygen. The oxygen is used up at the cellular level and they form energy, and then carbon dioxide is produced, and this carbon dioxide is released from stomata itself. Now what stomata are? Stomata are the small pores or small holes present on the surface of the leaves or the stem of some plants. Through these stomata, this exchange of gases occur. This way, the plants do the process of respiration. Now, the process of respiration in plants and animals are different. How they are different? There are some steps how they differ. Number one, the process of respiration is at a much slower rate in case of plants compared to animals. Second, in case of plants, the respiration or the exchange of gases occurs from different parts like from the stomata of leaves, stem or roots. And number three, the exchange of gases is very less in case of plants compared to animals. So this is the way how respiration is different in case of plants compared to animals. Now the next topic we are going to understand is human respiratory system. We will understand about the human respiratory system, its structures, how it works and the whole process in detail. First of all, which are the parts of human respiratory system? The main parts of human respiratory systems are: first, nostrils, then nasal passage inside of the nose, then pharynx, the tube which passes the gas through the neck region, it is called pharynx, then laryngopharynx which contains larynx or voice box, then the tube is called trachea which we call windpipe. Then this trachea is divided into two branches which are called bronchi, and this bronchi open into lungs. Lungs are pouch-like structure which gets oxygenated air which is inhaled through nose. So this is the whole structure of human respiratory system. At the lower end of this system there is a diaphragm. Diaphragm is a muscular sheet-like structure which differentiates or which divides the thoracic region and the abdominal region. So these are the parts of human respiratory system. Now we have to understand them in detail. The first is nostril or nasal passage. This is the part from where air enters into our body. This region inside it has mucus layer and it has a small hair-like structure inside of the surface which traps the dust and bacteria inside of the nasal cavity. Now from this nasal cavity the oxygenated air is carried further and it passes through the pharynx. Now this pharynx is a tube-like structure. It is covered with C-shaped cartilaginous structure. It is a hard structure which prevents or protects the windpipe. And here we have larynx or laryngopharynx which we call voice box through which the voice is produced. After pharynx, the further tubular part of the windpipe is called trachea. Now this trachea is covered with a structure called glottis. It's a muscular structure which closes the opening of this windpipe. This glottis is covered by a structure called epiglottis. The epiglottis closes the windpipe while swallowing something which prevents the entry of food particles or water while swallowing something, and it will not allow this food particle or water to enter into windpipe. Further, this windpipe means trachea is divided into two bronchi which open up into lungs. Now lungs are very delicate structure. They are pouch-like structure and they get the oxygenated air. The bronchi which enter into both of the lungs, they are divided into different smaller tubule-like structures which are called bronchioles, and those bronchioles at the end they are opening into some bubble-like structures which are called alveoli. Alveoli is the structure which finally gets the oxygenated air into it. The wall of alveoli inside is covered with a network of blood capillaries, and those blood capillaries carry the blood. This blood absorbs oxygen through the alveoli. So the exchange of gases occurs from lungs to the blood through a structure called alveoli. So this is the structure of human respiratory system, its organs and how they work. Now we will understand the mechanism of breathing, how breathing occurs in human body. Let us understand that. As we discussed about the diaphragm as it divides the thoracic region and abdominal region. During the mechanical process of breathing, the diaphragm goes at the lower side. As it moves at the downside, the pressure inside the lungs decreases. The outside pressure is more compared to the inner pressure of the lung. The air in the surrounding at higher pressure goes inside of our lungs. This way, the lungs get oxygenated air, and this air will be exchanged at alveoli. At the same time, blood containing carbon dioxide comes to the alveoli and it releases carbon dioxide into alveoli. At that time, the diaphragm pushes upwards, and due to higher pressure, the carbon dioxide containing air comes out of the body. This is the mechanism of breathing, how breathing occurs in human body. After understanding the mechanism of breathing, we will understand what will happen with the absorbed oxygen. As we know that in the surrounding wall of the alveoli, it contains a network of blood capillaries. This blood absorbs oxygen. As we know that the blood contains RBC, red blood cells, which has hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the material which absorbs oxygen and it forms oxyhemoglobin. Now this oxyhemoglobin means oxygenated hemoglobin goes to different parts of the body, and at tissue level and cellular level it provides oxygen to the cells. Whichever cells require oxygen, the amount of required oxygen is transferred to the cell. Now at cellular level, this oxygen is used up for the process of aerobic respiration. In mitochondria, this oxygen will be used up for the process of oxidation of glucose, and due to the burning of glucose, it will produce energy, which we have seen earlier in the process of aerobic respiration. This way, the absorbed oxygen is used at cellular level. Now, during this process, carbon dioxide is produced. This carbon dioxide is absorbed by the blood. It is dissolved into the blood, and then through the network of blood capillaries, it will again reach to the lungs, and inside of the lungs, the carbon dioxide will be released. This carbon dioxide is released out of the body. This is the whole process, how oxygen is taken up, it is used up at the cellular level, how carbon dioxide is formed, how carbon dioxide is absorbed by the blood, and it is released out of the body. So this whole process is the respiration process in human beings. So my dear students, this was the end of episode number 3, lesson number 6, in which we studied about the respiration process. Now in the next episode, we will study about circulation and circulatory system. So at the end of the video, I would say give like if you like my videos, share it with your friends, and keep on watching Lakshya Education online and keep studying.